Wow. There we are. It worked. What's going on, everybody? It is Kellam. This is WrestleZone. We are 3 weeks away from a 2-night WrestleMania and a week of wrestling that seems like it won't end with a new WWE streaming app called Peacock. Well, new to some people, that some people are pretty angry about. We have unfortunately, a WWE RAW superstar is on the shelf with COVID-19, and it looks like we have an order of what this year's WrestleMania is going to be. There's a lot to talk about, a whole lot to talk about. And if you're excited or not excited or somewhere in the middle about this year's Mania, get your comments on screen. Or if you're listening on the podcast, go ahead and sound back. This is your Monday Night Raw post show following a pretty testy episode. Whether you're new, whether you're old, whether you're with us on the old virtual couch all the time, thank you for joining us. This is the biggest time of the year. This is WrestleMania season. This is fans coming back and filling an arena, or filling a good portion of the arena. And one of those people is here with us tonight. I'm Kellam. That's John Clark, one of the lucky 25,000 who will be there in Tampa on April 10th and 11th. Many things coming together, especially in tonight's Monday Night Raw. We had a lot of just... it's the first night after Fastlane on Sunday. We knew we were going to get some things confirmed, but they confirmed just a lot of things we kind of knew were going to be matches. They just kind of dialed it in and said, like, yeah, we're going in this direction. John, are you excited for WrestleMania following tonight's Monday Night Raw?
I would say I'm probably on the same level that I was last night as far as the level goes. They didn't really do anything tonight that would extraordinarily raise that, and I think it's mainly because everything that they made official we knew was likely going to happen. I am very, very intrigued by the Asuka Rhea Ripley development, and I say that because I still think there's time to add somebody else to that match. So I'm going to be curious to see what they do leading up to it. Keep in mind that just because these matches are official, I mean, they did all night tonight, promoted Roman Reigns versus Edge, although we're convinced that's not going to be the case. So it's nice to see them, taking it seriously and saying, no, this is really what's going to happen. But is it really what's going to happen?
Mm-hmm. Chris Green saying, literally a WrestleMania infomercial with matches, but I enjoyed it. Well, isn't that all wrestling television when you're building the pay-per-views, guys? I mean, it's kind of shocking. What did you think they weren't going to promote WrestleMania and build a WrestleMania with some things? Like, we just got a lot of confirmations, announcements, and some kind of like punctuating angles and different things like that. We knew we got Bad Bunny and The Miz. We can talk about that as well. That was something that happened. Bad Bunny struck back at The Miz after he was successful in defeating Jeff Hardy on his own. So they're definitely trying to make Miz look more dangerous. And The Miz unfortunately teased a music video, which drops next week, which mocks Bad Bunny's hip-hop music by doing a dance sequence in bunny costumes. Was not feeling that. The match, though, was pretty solid. Bad Bunny getting the revenge, calling Miz a bitch, and indeed challenging him to a match. It looks like, based on the graphic, he'll have Damian Priest in his corner. And, of course, The Miz will have Morrison in his corner. This could turn into a tag match or something, or maybe just like a non-DQ thing so they can play around with it, right?
Absolutely. There are many possibilities here. So let's see
what other angles on tonight's Raw were interesting to you. Let's go through the good stuff and we'll work into the stuff down to the bad stuff.
I do want to point out real quickly that I was surprised that they're doing Bad Bunny and Miz one-on-one and leaving Priest out of the mix. He's going to be more of a manager type role at WrestleMania. I don't know. I think it should have been a tag match because really, I just doubt that we're going to see this guy go out there and pull a Pat McAfee type match. I'm just expecting the worst, if that makes sense. I don't know about you.
I've seen celebrity angles be worse than this, though. You know what I mean? We've seen a lot, especially because it's like, they're booking him for the celebrity. They're booking him for the appeal of one of those 20+ million people that have Peacock that haven't watched WWE in a while. Oh, Bad Bunny's wrestling on Saturday night on WrestleMania, one of the biggest shows of the year. I'll check that out. And that's kind of what they're playing for, and that's the idea. And if he goes out there and he does a handful of impressive things, then WWE fans will let it go. They did it with Snooki. I don't think Snooki is remembered as like one of the worst wrestling things ever. She went out there. She did a handful of physical things. They were fine. Remember what people thought of Floyd Mayweather versus Big Show? People thought that was just going to be an atrocity, and it turned into this real big, ridiculous spectacle in sort of a good way. No one's calling it the greatest WrestleMania match of all time. I don't think it'll be the best match of the entire weekend. I don't think it may be the most talked about thing over the weekend. This isn't like we keep having to tell you guys this. I know wrestling fans don't really get this. This isn't a nobody. This is one of the top recording artists in the world. Like, put this into perspective, maybe for some people that are older. This is them getting Britney Spears in 1999. Imagine that. Like, imagine them getting like somebody at the peak of their popularity to do this type of stuff. I mean, I get why they're doing it. The logic doesn't make sense. DJ saying if Miz wins, we riot. Obviously, we gotta go to one of our big fans here. We gotta go to Mr. James Espanto Fernando. And he says Bad Bunny should have a battle with Bo Derek. I don't know. Well, maybe he wants to do Playboy Bunny. I don't know where he's going with that. Don't know exactly here. We already have some people giving us ratings. Some of the diehard people are giving us an 8.5 here. You guys can give it your rating. 1 to 10. 1 to 10 honest ratings. And don't forget, you saw some good matches tonight. There were some really strong matches tonight. I really enjoyed the different angles that were built tonight to add elevation. A lot of the matches had consequence to them. When they opened with Lashley and Sheamus, they beat the crap out of each other. And it definitely felt like Sheamus, even after the loss, was trying to make himself feel like he could be a part of the WrestleMania program. He got beat. He got shoved back down. He had the Hurt Lock, and Hurt Business was at ringside. They were beating him down. Drew McIntyre ran out and saved the day, even though they went to war the other day. I guess maybe there's just they respect each other through violence. That was kind of clunky, but I've seen worse things. Like, right, we already know Drew's getting Lashley at Mania, right? So I didn't mind it. Hell of an opener. What did you think?
I thought it was a very interesting way to do things, but I'll tell you what I thought was more interesting. Later on, when Bobby Lashley was so pissed off that he goes to the locker room that's obviously, 6 what most people would consider jobbers right now. He says, if any of you want to shine and really be, have your opportunity, take out Drew McIntyre before WrestleMania. And there's 2 things I immediately thought of. One, they instantly have my attention and interest in Ricochet again. Ricochet was there. I think this would be perfect for him to turn heel, align himself with them. Obviously, they have history, and to just attack Drew.
And you also had other people in that chat. There was Humberto Carrillo was there.
Well, okay, forget about them. What's more interesting to me is that I think this would be perfect for Keith Lee.
I think it would be perfect for Keith Lee as well. We haven't seen Keith Lee in a while. There was some debate about whether or not he had some injury issues or something that put him on the shelf.
Imagine him and Bobby together.
Oh, great. Incredible. It would be incredible here. So obviously that was an interesting angle. That played obviously off of a very, very strong handicap match. Sometimes handicap matches are just kind of more just beatdown angles, right? And this one was pretty cool with Drew McIntyre saying, yeah, I'll take on your team. I'll take on the Hurt Business goon squad of Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin. I'll take them on. But this was like a really competitive, like fighting, brawling. It went competitive. They had an edge to it match. And when Drew won, it felt huge. That was one of the biggest Claymore kicks I've ever seen. And God bless Cedric Alexander selling it like he got thrown out of a car at 90 miles an hour. That was cool. I mean, they made Drew look awesome. I'm down for this. Hurt Business looks dangerous, but somewhat like they know there's a challenge here with Drew, that this is a different Drew McIntyre. I'm more sold on Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre than I was last week. You?
Yes, I am. I am definitely more sold on that, and I'm more comfortable with where they're going. For this, the reason I say that is because it looks like they are giving Sheamus something to do, I was initially concerned about that. But now that he looks like he's going to have something to do, I'm okay with this one-on-one match. Although, look, I gotta be honest here. I'm still not happy with the way this match is probably going to end. I don't like
How
it.
do you think it's ending?
No,
How do you think this is? We're 3 weeks out. How do you think it's ending?
Well, I think this will be the main event of the night one because it was announced for night one, and I do think that it will probably be Drew getting his WrestleMania moment, standing
But doesn't he
tall as the
deserve
new
it?
champion. No,
This is for the people that are just tuning in. We have 82 Seedless who says he's a longtime podcast listener, first time checking it out live. Thank you guys so much. I know there's plenty of people that listen to our show on demand through the podcast stuff. If you guys want to do that as well, all of our shows, I mean, we put out like, I think 8 shows last week. You can get them all on our podcast feed whenever you want. Apple, iTunes, iHeart, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you do guys go ahead and do that, give us a 5-star review as well. One of our biggest weeks ever on the podcast in years we had the past 2 weeks. So I'm so thankful for that. And thank you guys for checking it out, especially before WrestleMania too.
Look, dog. Look, dog.
But I think Drew deserves the WrestleMania moment. Or do you think this is just too soon for Bobby Lashley to drop that title?
It's a combination of both. And while I do think he deserves the moment, I don't think it has to be right now. I mean, unless he plans on retiring, it doesn't have to be the year after he should have had it last year. It's almost like they're just repeating what they did last year. Is Drew going to beat Bobby, and then when the show goes off air, we're going to get a dark match where Drew McIntyre defends it against Undertaker or something? Like, it's just too repetitive for me. They're going the same direction as last year, except take out Brock Lesnar, put in Bobby Lashley.
I mean,
that's not okay. It's not okay.
You think it's not okay? I think it's more interesting because the bounty angle. The bounty angle makes it different to me because then it's Drew versus the world.
But the bounty angle would be up. It expires WrestleMania because you have to take him out before WrestleMania.
Which makes the next 3 weeks of television not just lackluster TV. It means we get to see Drew McIntyre versus Ricochet in a match that has consequence, stakes, okay? Drew Gulak is on the road to WrestleMania. Does this mean he's going to have a big WrestleMania match? No. He'll have a big match with the guy who's going to be at WrestleMania, and he's going to play a real supporting role where the things he does matter, even if he gets beat. But what if just for a second, he gets to beat him? And Drew's got to go undefeated for 3 weeks in the next 3 weeks at WrestleMania.
He will.
That's where this is going. So I love the idea of Drew versus the world. It throws a whole different element into it. I'm not saying I think it's the best angle ever because I got to play it up, though. You know, you can't lose that momentum. I think they have more momentum than they did last week. I'm into it. I think Sheamus played a role of just kind of like the warring friend, you know? And we did see Sheamus do some goofy stuff backstage with Riddle, who just interrupted his promo with another great Irishman, Kevin Patrick, for Kevin to Kevin, Irish Kevin to Kevin. All right? I'm loving this. And then Riddle comes in on a scooter, a big old goofball, wearing the U.S. title the wrong way, asking him if he's seen a leprechaun. So, of course, he gets a scooter in the gut. So it seems like we're going to get Sheamus versus Riddle, but it's a match we had on TV a little while ago, right?
Yes. Before we go any further, can we debunk a rumor first that is circulating in the comments?
Sure. What's the rumor? I didn't catch it, buddy. What is it?
We have people trying to say that the Charlotte COVID stuff is fake.
No. Yeah. So before we continue, this show where we just talk about what's going on TV, there's the last 24 hours have been very odd because we do last night's show. You and I do Fastlane. And then like 5 minutes afterwards, you're like, hey, I don't know what you're doing. I know, hey, you can cover this. I don't do breaking news stuff for us all the time. And we already had an article up, or great Colin Tessier was putting it together, and we were trying to verify it. And then minutes later, we saw WWE kind of say, yeah, it's legit. And so here we are. Andrade is out of WWE. He is engaged to Charlotte, one of the biggest, wrestlers in WWE on the female side of things. And we hadn't seen her last week. And then
so
this
there
happened.
Go the rumors.
But then there was news last week that she was gonna be doing a new movie project, a walking tall action film, a made-for-TV movie with USA Network and NBC. So is that going into production right away? Is she just suddenly out of WrestleMania? No, WrestleMania is still a big deal. She's still on a bunch of, some people say, oh, she's off the poster for WrestleMania. They have like 5 different posters for WrestleMania, guys. There's no official poster for WrestleMania. So that you can debunk that because there's no reporting in that. I can understand where people said that, but if you saw the rollout, there's been like 18 different graphics for it. So I don't think that's a cementing thing to go with. So and then we hear, we even report from multiple sources, Fightful, PWI Insider, and of course we had at WrestleZone as well, is that Charlotte was not going to be on Raw tonight. So following last night, Andrade leaves. Then we've learned that Andrade can now apparently compete he can go to the competition right away without a 90-day no compete clause, which
I think he will.
There's probably a clause to that. It's just a matter of where he's going to go. So let's leave that. That's a whole other conversation. So then everyone's just saying, "Oh, Charlotte's done with WWE." Everyone was rushing to these insane conclusions that have no backing. Pure speculation. Speculation, guys, is not fact. Speculation.
There was so
is
much
not fact.
stuff from people saying that she was unhappy to people saying that Ric Flair was involved with a threat to saying if they didn't release him, then they were going to be upset. There was a rumor going around saying that if she didn't sit out WrestleMania, or no, the rumor was that she had to agree to sit out WrestleMania for him to be released, which was also false. And then the news breaks from herself that she has COVID, which is true. She does have COVID.
Yeah, and to then say, then you have the people that just hate Charlotte, right? They just hate Charlotte because there's this idea that, she only has success, and they're there was people happy
that she might miss WrestleMania.
That she might miss. There's a very, very good chance she can miss WrestleMania. Very, very good chance. You know, I mean, some people get COVID and they deal with it for a handful of weeks. They're not just done with it, in a while. It depends on who you are and what your immune system is like. It's very different for everyone, right? So there's a very good chance for that. Or WWE says, maybe sorry, it's just too soon to bring you back and we have to go in this different direction. And they set some things up tonight that could be that different direction.
Yeah.
If anyone is rooting for anyone to get COVID, I don't need you to watch this show. I don't need you to listen to this podcast. I don't want to hang out with you. I'm going to tell you to I want you to go back to the table and think about what you did. Cause your thing is I don't like this person because I don't like them. And I said, I don't like them. And I argue with other people that like them. You sound, and to borrow a phrase from one Mr. Shane McMahon, stupid. You sound stupid.
It's pretty vile to do stuff like that. I know there was a controversy a couple years ago where people were treating Roman Reigns a similar way when he broke more serious news about his cancer. That's just not. You don't want to see that.
And then we have Christopher Brown saying, "Keep in mind, Charlotte has the Walking Tall remake. We mentioned that. I'm wondering if this COVID revelation has anything to do with it. No. She got COVID. People get COVID. People are out taking a risk. I went and did shows this weekend. I'm very specific. I have a show on Thursday, and I felt like, all right, I'm going to be back in Chicago from Sunday to Wednesday. I'll be able to do testing and make sure I'm fine and know where I'm at with it and everything like that.
It's more likely than not that she's at the end of this because it has been a while since we've seen her, and typically they wait until closer to the end when they know they're going to be okay to say anything about it.
And that isn't even to say that you're ready to go. You know what I mean? You could get this and your cardio isn't there. You can't work out. Maybe it beat you up. I've known some people that are dealing with issues from it for months and months and months, and these are fairly healthy people. Drew McIntyre had a little while ago. You know what I mean? So, mind you, he looks fine. He looks like he's working all right. So it's just people got to calm down, man. People really, really, really got to calm down here.
The people that are worried, trust me, she's not going anywhere. They are not going to let her go.
No. She's going to still be a part of WWE here. Let's talk about this and what happened with the women tonight. We had Asuka versus Peyton Royce. Peyton Royce recently cut a promo on Raw Talk, all of the Miz from a few years ago, saying that she deserves better. She wants an opportunity. She walked down to the ring like she was really serious in the ring with the returning and a new, meaner version of Asuka, the Raw Women's Champion, who got some revenge on Shayna Baszler last week. They both look like they have something to prove. 3 weeks out from WrestleMania. This is elevation. It's WrestleMania time. Let's pick it up, all right? And I felt this was a really competitive match. Peyton Royce did tap out to the Asuka lock. I saw people saying this is ridiculous. She wanted to push, and you bury her. She was a part of a match to get the champion ready for WrestleMania. Does this mean that she's going to be a big part of WrestleMania? No. Is she a big part of the road WrestleMania when the rosters are this stacked? Yes. And that's still being a part of the show. So calm down. I liked this. I thought this was good. The curveball, though, and this is one I haven't made up my mind about. Rhea Ripley debuts on Monday Night Raw from NXT. We knew this was coming. We knew she was going to be on tonight's show. Did not know we were going to get her calling out Asuka right away and saying, basically, I'm going to skip the line. I'm going to wear my badass heavy metal Amazon outfit and call you out for WrestleMania.
2 years in a row for her.
This will be 2 years in a row that Rhea has done this around WrestleMania, thrown the curveball at somebody and called them out for a match, either a title she had last year or in this case, a title she wants to win. I think maybe there'll be some hoops that she has to get through in the next few weeks. And also the Charlotte scenario. Is Charlotte going to be added to this match in some way?
So there's definitely a lot of elements to this. I think one is obviously the people that are going to be upset that other people backstage aren't getting these opportunities. I saw a lot of people specifically say like Naomi should be given opportunities, just to name somebody. The other element to this is the fact that, like you said, Charlotte is in the picture. I do think if she's healthy to come back, it will somehow turn into a triple threat match just because Charlotte, you can't keep her off the card if she's healthy, and I don't think you'd want to. There's a story there, which is what I'm getting into with my last comment on this. Rhea Ripley, they should have a story where people are calling her out the next couple of weeks saying, you know, like, hey, why do you get to skip a line? And then she gets to prove herself for maybe the next 3 Raws and win actually, only 2 Raws, I think, until WrestleMania now. Yeah, only 2.
Yeah.
So I think she needs to win 2 matches, just so also the common fans, the casual fans will maybe know her a little more if they don't. I think they should. But I think, I mean, Rhea is not a shoo-in to win this by any means. No. Asuka has gotten the short end of the stick at WrestleMania almost every time she's been at WrestleMania. I think she's due to finally win once.
Yeah, and I do think Rhea could take the loss. The match is competitive. I know some people were really upset when Rhea just didn't win WrestleMania last year, and her and Charlotte had the best match. They had the best match of the weekend in the eyes of many people.
And regardless of who wins this, Charlotte is likely next in line for the winner, so that'll be intriguing after WrestleMania also.
This was a very consequential Raw. I could definitely say it was a 3-hour Raw, but it didn't feel like there were some periods in the third hour where I was, I'm tuning out here a little bit. But first 2 hours were pretty strong. Another reminder, and maybe Raw should just be like 2.5 hours, something like that, because we had the Drew McIntyre like angle that kind of went through the beginning of the night to like into the second hour. There was some stuff that I thought was less intriguing. We got basically a rerun of WWE Fastlane again with Shane McMahon in the ring. He did a little ditty with Elias. They got to sing tonight. Remember when Elias would do these singing bits where he would like kind of like sing-songly insult his opponent? I thought that was fine. Remember, these in front of live audience, these are particularly better, but I thought this was all right. Then Shane says, well, my knee isn't still great. And you know what? You're going to take on Braun Strowman, who's coming out here. Because they advertised that we were going to get Shane versus Braun tonight. We didn't get it. We just got Elias versus Elias and Jackson Riker getting wrecked by Braun again. And then did you hear this? When Braun ran around the ring, they dubbed in a train noise?
Yes, they did. Yep. Twice. I did not like that. I was not a fan of that. I thought that was a little bit too, I want to say childish, if that makes sense. I didn't like it. That would not work for a live crowd, I don't think.
But I mean, if you have live crowds that just start yelling "choo choo," I'm on board.
I don't think that's going to happen either.
No. But I choose some of your comments. Sorry, I had to make that Simpsons reference. I had to make that Simpsons reference. We're gonna get some big goofy match where they can go as in the post match promo. Shane said you could choose whatever match you want. Well, Shane's gonna regret that probably. He's gonna regret that, and it's definitely gonna be something where Braun gets to knock some giant thing down, and Shane gets to jump off a giant thing. Maybe Shane gets is on some different light tower, and Braun like knocks it down or something like that. Maybe Braun pushes over the pirate ship.
I do think that there's going to be an element to the pirate ship, and I do think that it's going to have to be either the Braun-Shane match or the Orton-Fiend match. That makes the most sense. I know Kevin Owens said he wants to do it, but I think him and Sami Zayn, it really doesn't make sense, at least right now. I'm okay with it, Braun and Shane, because like he said Braun can pick any stipulation, so we clearly know this isn't going to be a normal one-on-one match. I do like Jesse's comment there. A false count anywhere seems the most realistic to me that they would pick. But Strowman could go for something even crazier, like a parking lot brawl or something like that.
Something like they'll do something with, but it's also you got to think, how do you keep people away from them? You know, like they don't want to be near the audience. This is a different controlled
'cause the
environment.
setup will be interested to see if they have like a hockey arena where they have glass up around the ring. I think they will. I honestly think they will.
We're gonna go to this area that suddenly has plastic boards around it,
like NXT has the fencing around. Yeah,
yeah. So we'll see how this plays out here. What else do you want to cover on Monday Night Raw? Do you want to talk about the Raw tag team scene?
Yeah, but quickly, I met earlier. You were talking about Riddle and Sheamus. I didn't get to comment on that because I was talking about Charlotte. But I want to say that I'm glad they're giving Sheamus something. Although I don't think he will win over Riddle, I'm still happy that he gets on the card because he's been working his ass off the past couple months. And I think it's very funny what they're doing. Riddle is just acting like he's the dopey, stupid guy that has no idea what's going on. He's acting like what Shane's calling Braun.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the tag scene.
Let's talk about that tag scene. We felt last week that AJ Styles and his very large, tall henchman almost were just kind of like given a match. Like they got to come out randomly out of nowhere with little to no build up at all and just call out the New Day, the 11-time reigning at the moment WWE Raw Tag Team Champions. And New Day, Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston, quite charismatic, I think should be in a prominent role at WrestleMania. They are not any less over than they were a while ago, though some people could say, oh, the act is stale, you need some fresh opponents, right? So this is a fresh opponent. But then you have the other camp of people that like AJ Styles is a single star. Why isn't he in a big featured singles match at WrestleMania this year? So this does feel like a step down from Styles, who's been in The Undertaker. He had the Shane role. He had the big featured kind of usually opening the show or closing it the past couple of years of WrestleMania. He's had a big role at those shows. But, he is saying this is a bucket list thing. I want to make sure I get all the titles. So he's trying to put the positive spin on it. And I did think that the New Day coming out with the way they cut a promo building to this match, it was just Kofi versus Styles singles. I wasn't feeling it, but then the promo got entertaining. They goofed around when they did the British accents that just felt like ridiculous in a good way. And you had Xavier Woods like chiming at the camera, like he was giving commentary at a camera that was just at ringside. And I also thought they had great physical chemistry. It made me think. I even tweeted this out at WrestleZone.com. I was like thinking, like, man, I wish we had a Kofi versus Styles singles match at a big pay-per-view down the line.
Yeah, and I jinxed myself last week because as we were talking last week, we mentioned how we thought some people might be like, AJ Styles doesn't deserve this. And I said, oh, no, nobody says that. And then, like, the next day, I saw everybody on Twitter talking about how AJ Styles is getting screwed. They can't think of anything for him creatively. He needs to be doing something better. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking to myself, he's basically single-handedly going to rejuvenate the tag division on Raw, and I think that speaks volumes.
And when you get, if they really give him the time. Now the problem is, Omos is not an accomplished wrestler. He's physically a larger-than-life guy who can certainly hold his own. He held his own in like the limited dialogue stuff they gave him tonight when they kind of challenged whether or not these guys know each other, and he said the wrong ice cream and he said the wrong wrestler. I was like, of course, a big Omos likes Andre the Giant. I was like, that makes sense. There was some decent dialogue. It wasn't fantastic, but I was like, this is an improvement on just the match coming out of nowhere, right?
Yeah, and I think it's definitely more intriguing than what we see on SmackDown because it looks like SmackDown is going in the direction of this large-scale 4-team match between the Dirty Dogs, Mysterio and Dominic, and Otis and Gable, and then they'll find another team somewhere. I'm not sure who it's going to be yet, but I'm sure there will be a fourth one. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do that because it seems like this year they're, like we mentioned earlier, they're just kind of putting stuff together with no story. It seems like one of those WrestleManias that's going to be for the person that likes the in-ring stuff and not as much the storytelling and entertainment stuff. because there hasn't been a lot of storytelling or build to the matches. It's been more of like there's going to be good wrestling, but not a lot of stories behind.
Depends on what match you're talking about. You know what I mean? There's a ton of gasoline, for lack of a better phrase, on Fiend and Orton, and we'll talk about that here.
The show. I'm generalizing.
Yeah, but undercard wise, you have this tag match that was put together. You mentioned the men's tag match for the SmackDown side of things. That feels like it's just big group multi-man match. Go out there, have some
to get everybody
some fun things, and we'll worry about it week to week. I don't like that, especially when there's 2 nights of wrestling. Every match should feel like it has a story. But to counter that, we looked at the bounty angle. I was like, that's a great way to get people on the road, at least a part of it. Peyton's a part of it, like looking past WrestleMania. If you can get them in the mix, I think that matters. So I'm into that here. Other people chiming in. Mike Gordon said Jeff Hardy should retire. Jeff Hardy called out Miz, said, send Morrison backstage. Jeff Hardy's a guy, I think, where he doesn't have a big role at WrestleMania this year. So there are some names here where you're saying like, oh, wow, they're not a part of it. And then you don't have those part-time feature performers that are being advertised for this. So this is certainly a WrestleMania where even though we're saying we don't feel a big mid-card build, I do think they're going to put something together that's going to surprise you. Some people will surprise you. And I think that can happen here. Also, I didn't like the women's tag match tonight. Over the Reginald thing. Reginald was a fun side complimenting act. I think they just got it way into a cool new thing that they like and paired him with Nia Jax. And it's distracting for Shayna. These guys have run, these gals have run their course. They demolish Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose. You have Naomi and Lana at ringside wanting a rematch, but they got beat, weeks ago by the women's tag team titles. I mean, they're giving these women's tag team titles a lot of TV time, but I'm not feeling it. I just feel like every time they're doing it, it's just kind of plotting and silly, but also it's a lot of empty calories,
I get that, but at the same time, they're actually doing something to make the titles relevant. We haven't seen that before very much, especially when the Iconics had them there, and when Asuka and Kairi Sane had them, they weren't really doing a whole lot. And I think we're in the same boat here. We're going to get a large multi-women tag match. We already have Natalya and Tamina. We already have Naomi and Lana. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to get those 3 teams in a match. I think they need to get them off of Shayna and Nia Jax. And we've talked about this time and time again. They can do a lot of bigger and better things. Especially, let's not forget that we're 2 or 3 weeks away from WrestleMania. But at the same time, let's not forget, we're only a month away from Money in the Bank, which is one of the biggest pay-per-views of the year as well. And you got to start getting ready for that and determining who you're going to have win.
Yeah, it never ends, man. It just keeps going. It's a machine. It keeps going and going and going and going and going.
What off season?
Playoffs. So we have a lot to look at here. A few weeks out. Some of it's good. Some of it's off. I think some of the undercard things need some work. I think the Edge, Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan scenario could be interesting. The SmackDown side of things could also have maybe a grudge match with Apollo Crews and Big E. So I do think there's some slightly more compelling stuff on the SmackDown side of things. Right
now. It looks like since they've said they wanted to be between 7 and 10 p.m. each night, so they're aiming for 3 hours. It's looking like we're going to get about 7 matches each night. So that leaves a card of about 14 matches, and that's not even including the pre-show.
Yeah, so you have kickoffs and stuff like that too. The pre-show is for social media.
So we have 8 confirmed matches right now, so there's still 6 or 7 more to be added yet. So there's a lot of room for more stuff.
Yeah, it's just weird to see these all get confirmed 3 weeks out from WrestleMania. I know for some people, like, how could they do that? It's WrestleMania. How come we don't know what these matches are already? You knew we were getting Bad Bunny versus The Miz in some way. You've known about Edge versus Reigns for like over a month. I don't think it's as bad as people make it out to be. I also think it's just odd for a lot of fans that there isn't that big returning star. Edge is that returning star, but we've known he's coming back since January. But the flashy one. Oh, here's Lesnar. Here's the Undertaker. This is a different year. This is a different challenge. And as I've been saying to you, we even had someone commented earlier that they're excited to hear 25,000 people bang on plastic boards and yell, "This is awesome" in person. The attraction this year is that crowd. It's going to be that crowd. It's going to be a live wrestling crowd reacting to wrestling in the United States in a very formidable way. Cross our fingers. Everyone stays healthy, and we don't have any COVID issues here, as we've already kind of covered on the show here. Monday Night Raw, 3 weeks out from WrestleMania. What do you give it on our classic, never to be challenged 1 to 10 scale? I got my rating in my head. What do you got?
For tonight's Raw, 7.
7. I'm right there with you. I'm going to give it a 7. It lost me a little bit in the third hour, but this show closing angle, we'll talk about it now, even though we have the rating. I just want to really let this be by itself. Randy Orton and The Fiend have been going at it for what? Since September, I say? October-ish? Was it Hell in a Cell? So since November.
It's been September. I think it was September when it first started, yeah. After SummerSlam there.
Well, they had Hell in a Cell, and then he had like Drew McIntyre and stuff like that. So sometime in the fall. Okay. So I don't think the date is long, but it's really long. It's a really, really long wrestling program by today's standards. They've done a bunch of insane things. They burned The Fiend. They flipped Alexa Bliss into a demon minion. They made Randy Orton spit up black goop and his face got burned, but somehow he healed very quickly. But The Fiend, who had his entire body burned, disappeared for months. It's been quite ridiculous. But through it all, despite what you can say, it is effective because it's you and I know this. Hardcore fans, I think, hate this angle, but then how come everyone's talking about it with us every single week? I mean, when's The Fiend going to come back? Is what we got to ask for months. And he comes back at Fastlane with this very gruesome looking makeup, with this new mask that does look like he's genuinely burnt. He looks like Jason Voorhees when they would take the mask off every other movie in the Friday the 13th films. But they would do that every other movie, like it wasn't a big deal. But he looks like a movie monster, and he is operating like one. And everything about this is over the top. But that's the idea. They're going to have this match at WrestleMania. Randy Orton tried to burn him again alive, only for him to be distracted and attacked. And they pointed at the sign. So we're getting WrestleMania 3. It was fine. It wasn't one of the. They've done some show closing Fiend Alexa Bliss things, at the end of a 3-hour Raw that were, I would say, a little bit more compelling or than this. Had a little bit more, for lack of a better phrase, bang to them. But we can't just get a normal match, right? We just can't get a normal Orton versus Fiend match. This needs to be a Firefly Funhouse. This needs to be something that lives up to the ridiculousness of the angle.
Here's it's funny that you say that because I don't know if you saw there was a couple reports today. One from WrestleVotes, very reliable, as we've said before, that they were exploring the idea of making the WrestleMania match a squash with The Fiend winning because they wanted to have a cinematic match at Money in the Bank when they could do that because there are no fans. What's your thoughts on doing that? So it would be The Fiend winning in a squash at WrestleMania, and then somehow they work towards a rematch that would be a cinematic match at Money in the Bank.
I would think that's kind of underwhelming a little bit. And they need to do something that ends this a little bit to a degree. I don't mind. I don't mind whatever you do at Money in the Bank as kind of an epilogue, as like this is just an add-on that we can make that pays off of the dynamic of these characters that we've been doing for a while,
like the Edge and Orton thing last year.
Sure, yeah, and when they did their greatest match ever thing, which was really just the first time that they played with the idea of like a dubbed in audience, and and like it was the first time they kind of like did things like that. I'm of the thought that you got to have some type of cool match. You got to have some over the top, out there gimmick. It's WrestleMania. You're gonna have a show. You're gonna have a show full of matches, and it's 2 nights. And this
can't
is
be cinematic.
You can't be cinematic, but it's got to be some type of
parade alive.
Yeah, it's got to be. They want to do the Inferno match again with a live audience. That could be crazy. They got to do something wild. That's just my take. And it's almost like you've built yourself up to live up to those insane expectations. Other people with different questions here. Let's jump into some questions here. We haven't done just a straight up Q&A if you're with us here. Let's see what you guys are thinking about Orton versus the Fiend. Jeff Partridge saying, I don't see Firefly Funhouse match happening with this Fiend. Funhouse Bray doesn't fit into the story at this point. Yeah, leave him just be the monster, right? We don't need to see the wave-in TV show host thing anymore. They've mixed this all together with that weird theme song that Alexa comes out to that sounds like someone's just scratching a record left and right. Other takes here. TJ, who's with us all the time. Thank you so much, TJ. He goes, do you think Taya Valkyrie to the Raw Women's match, John and Kev, or do you think Taya in the NXT show? Taya Valkyrie signing with WWE. She's a part of the Performance Center class. She comes in with a ton of experience. Longest reigning Impact Women's Tag Team champion. No, I think she's in NXT. She does some time in NXT. Maybe we see her around Stand and Deliver, I would say, is when you see her that takeover.
She'll be in the audience. They'll show her.
The classic audience introduction, or maybe they give her a match. Maybe like you have 2 nights. She shows up on night 1, she gets a match night 2, something like that. I think her in NXT could be interesting. Though I agree with you. AJ came over from TNA, was ready for television. I do think Taya could. I'm not saying she isn't ready for Raw. I'm just saying that that's the way the pattern is right now. But you could say NXT's women division is pretty stacked right now, and that maybe Taya would be a fresher shakeup for Raw or SmackDown. Definitely SmackDown right now, I think, probably needs a fresher look at singles competitors. So maybe she can be there. What a good draw you would be on that. You're on the most watched show just based on the night it's on too. People want to know your seats. You got your seats for WrestleMania. Your seat view. Tell them where you're sitting again, buddy.
In front of the hard cam. So it would be like if you're watching Raw, the audience in the background you see there, that's where I'll be. If you're watching on TV, I'll be on the right side. I got aisle seats on the right-hand side. So yeah, if you're looking at the right far ring post, look straight up and you should be able to see me. It shouldn't be too hard because there's going to be 75% of the section is going to be empty. So,
yeah, you think they're going to do seat fillers or stuff like that?
I don't think there's going to be cardboard cutouts. It's a little late in the game for that, unless they're going to borrow some of the Super Bowl ones that I've.
They could print them out. Come on, they could print out all those seat fillers, dude.
But who are they? Just going to look random people up online and print their picture out? Like,
donate to this charity and you get your face printed out at WrestleMania. I don't mind that. That would be fine here. Yes, people talking about the rumors. WWE planning a squash match. Fiend to beat him next pay-per-view. Randy Orton versus. I could see that, but it's also like you got to have a real match, unless they want to do a over-the-top squash match, like something that really makes it seem like he can't come back. I don't know, but I think a jobber like one and done match, like over in 30 seconds. I don't know. I can see people being really let down by that. There has to be something else to this.
Yeah, the something else to this is the intriguing part where Alexa Bliss snaps out of it, turns on Bray Wyatt, costs him the match, Randy Orton wins, and Alexa Bliss is back to her normal self.
Yeah, that's a little too. They can do that in another way. Get away from Randy. Get away from Randy. Don't cover. Stop covering your camera, John. I hate when you cover your camera. It drives me crazy. But yeah, I think there's something you got to do that lives up to the hype of this year. Other people were remarking that Bray looked taller. I didn't know that he looked taller. He looked definitely creepy. I'll leave it at that. So we have plenty to cover on the website right now. We have fresh interviews up with Renee Paquette about her new podcast. Eric Bischoff, 49 minutes with the guy who's going into the WWE Hall of Fame. We didn't get any new Hall of Fame news tonight, but we are definitely getting a Hall of Fame ceremony.
Well, it's funny that we had the video segment there for NWO played tonight, so that was interesting.
Yeah, and we knew they're going in. There was some news over the weekend. We kind of covered this a little bit more inclination, though no confirmation. Dave Bautista was a part of the 2020 class that was announced last year. That was postponed to this year, with some new names that are also going to be inducted in a class of 2021, right? That Batista can't do it because of a commitment for him with quarantining and COVID-19 in Australia, and that maybe WWE would want to save that for a live crowd. So I'm in the inclination that I think that makes sense. I don't mind that if there's a big name or two that they want to save for another year. That's okay. NWO taking over. Yes, there's some old NWO people who are feeling the vibes this year. And other people always saying this. Who else needs to be inducted? Who hasn't been inducted yet that should be inducted? We get this all the time. Eric Bischoff, absolutely deserving of it. Right? I would say, everyone complains, how come you didn't do this sooner? Molly Holly getting inducted. People mad about Bella Twins, but obviously they're so popular and very successful. That makes sense. British Bulldog, he's part of the names are already announced there. But Raul texting in here saying, I think Lex Luger and Rick Martel should be inducted in the Hall of Fame. WWE Hall of Fame going down Tuesday, the week of WrestleMania. That's right. It will be Monday Night Raw, a Tuesday Night Hall of Fame induction, night 1 of NXT TakeOver Wednesday, night 2 of NXT TakeOver Thursday, a Friday Night SmackDown right before WrestleMania, two nights of WrestleMania, and then a night of Monday Night Raw. And then maybe they're moving NXT to that Tuesday. That's literally oh man, that's almost like 10 days of stuff. It's insane.
I'll catch night 1 of TakeOver from a hotel in Pittsburgh, and I'll catch night 2 of TakeOver from a hotel in Tampa.
Oh, there you go. What are you doing in Pittsburgh? What are you doing up in Pittsburgh if you're in a hotel up there? Are you just going up there for the flight? You're going up to Pittsburgh and you fly. Okay, all right, cool. So yes. It's interesting that Raul texting about Lex Luger being in there is Mick Foley became vocal this week on social media that he wants Lex Luger to be inducted, that he really thinks Lex Luger deserves it. Lex Luger is going to be featured in WWE's Icon series on the WWE Network in the next couple of months here. And Lex has gone through some very serious health issues. He has some paralysis problems now that he's been dealing with for years. And he's a born-again man, completely different attitude in his life. Certainly a big guy in the 80s and 90s, found from professional football ranks, made the transition. Some people would say not one of the best in-ring athletes, but certainly a big star during a very, very big time. He was a part of the Monday Night Wars. I think anyone who was there during the Monday Night Wars who really made their mark is bound for. Are you scratching your back with a credit card? How are you doing that? That's clever.
That was my old gift card that has been used up now.
I used it up, so now it's a back scratcher. Don't want an itchy back when you're going to Mania, brother. Lex Luger in the Hall of Fame. I'm completely on board with that. So plenty of things here for what is going on with WrestleMania. It'll be 8 straight days of wrestling. So definitely it's gonna be wild to say the least. Can keep following us, everybody. If you're enjoying the interaction and all the fun we're having here, we're going to do more of it. Check out our Twitch channel. I did a Retromania play along. I'm starting to not be good at video games again, just trying to be good at video games again. So if you want to see me be bad, we have that up. It's up as now on the Twitch channel. You can also check out all these shows if you're just a Twitch person, whatever app works for you. Maybe you want to watch us on your TV. You can do that as well. Go ahead and follow us on YouTube, on Facebook, the podcast. So much more content coming out every single day this week. You can follow John Clark and Twitter where?
John R. Clark 12.
Mm-hmm. And you can follow me on the Twitter machine at Kev Kellam. I will be Laughs at Lakeview Tap this Thursday on the north side of Chicago this Thursday night. You know anyone, let them know. Tell them to mask up, socially distanced show. They're not letting too many people in. So if we have a big crowd, we'll turn people away. But this Thursday night, I'll be doing that. I'll be booking some more comedy shows and AAW. AAW, one of the top independent wrestling companies in the world, coming back to Villa Park, Illinois, April 3rd. It will be streaming worldwide on Fight.tv. Maybe, I don't like WWE. I want my indie wrestling. I want something different. We're going to have it for you live on Fight TV the weekend before WrestleMania. You're going to have to check it out. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching the show. Please remember, as always, do that important thing, that most important thing. They didn't do my fantasy booking. They aren't booking my faves. I don't like my favorite person tapping out. And if you push them, they should just defeat everyone on the roster immediately. Stop. Breathe. Let more blood get to your brain. You're going to sit 6 feet away from other people with your mask on, and you're going to enjoy WrestleMania. You're going to do what, John?
Enjoy wrestling.
Enjoy it. Come on, John. I know it's late at night, but really.